What is up, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the Stay Tranquilo Podcast, where we're here to help you stress a little bit less and enjoy a whole lot more. I'm here with Danny Rod, a.k.a., I don't know, do you have a nickname?
Not really.
No nickname, just here with I'm here with Danny. We're going to get into a little bit about, some of the ventures that Danny's got going on. But before we get into it, if you want to introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. My name's Danny. I'm the co-founder of Blue Missions. I was born and raised in Miami, grew up here, still live here. And I'm, passionate about connecting people to purpose. That's kind of been my thing, helping people find out what they're being called to do. And, through my different ventures, I've kind of made sure that that's a part of it.
Hell yeah. I love that. So you went to Columbus. I went to Columbus. We didn't really know each other, but we connected later on. Obviously, I've known about Blue Missions, and we'll get into Blue Missions now in a little bit. But I've known Danny now for a few months, like for the better part of it. I've known of you obviously through Blue Missions, and heard a lot about it from Columbus, and a lot of my friends that have been a part about it. But Blue Missions is obviously, like you said, something about serving a bigger purpose and giving to the community. Can you tell people a little bit about Blue Missions, how it came to be, and essentially what it entails?
Yeah, for sure. So Blue Missions, Blue stands for Building Love, Uniting Everyone. And that's really at the core of everything that we do. And the origin story of Blue Missions, takes us back to 2007, where when I was a junior at Columbus, I had a service hour requirement. And my dad had participated on a few mission trips in the past, and he had been trying to get me to go. I had said no a few years.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'll go. I got to get these service hours done. I was kind of disappointed at first because my birthday fell right in the middle of the trip. And, I was your typical teenager, wanting to do his own thing. And, I'd rather be back at home with my friends in Miami.
Yeah, of course.
For my birthday than in a mountain without air conditioning, working manual labor, hard labor.
Didn't seem like the ideal way to spend the birthday, yeah.
So just looking at it from that frame, I was disappointed going into it, but all it took was, 48 hours to fall in love with the experience. And that was a mission trip to the Dominican Republic to work in a small village called Venu Arriba. Okay. In that town, we were working together with the community to build a water system for about 50 families. So what that entails is bringing fresh water from a higher altitude down to a community where these residents live, where the population lives. And the work includes building a dam, building a reservoir tank, digging trenches with picks and shovels, mixing cement, gluing pipe. And then, it kind of culminates on that last day, usually when that water shoots through that pipe and the entire community is gathered. So that's kind of where I learned about the water crisis. I was in shock. I didn't even know that people were living without clean water. And I was just kind of, mind blown that, how can I be 16 years old and, there's still 1 billion people living without clean water, and I had never heard of it, not in school, not from TV, not from anything. So being there, living that experience, connecting with the locals really opened my eyes, and the entire experience was fun. Imagine a 10-day camping trip with your friends, no distractions, just being present in the moment. Someone wakes you up, or when the gallinas, do their thing in the morning, the gallos, that's what you wake up to, right? And, it's nice to be able to disconnect from the hustle bustle that we have in our everyday lives. And I was 16 at the time, so, it wasn't, that wasn't when Blue was created, but it planted that seed inside of me. And it led to me returning back with this organization called LIFO Missions.
Okay.
3 years in a row. And then after those 3 years, I was studying at FIU, studying finance and international business. The organization needed space for new volunteers, so they politely kicked us out. And, they didn't really, I always say it that way, but the founder of LIFO Missions is one of my greatest mentors. He's also a Columbus grad.
Oh, okay.
His name's Albert Perez, class of 1984. Yep. Yeah. And he knew that my interest had been piqued, and he knew that there could be more impact. So when I approached him with the idea of creating a new group that would focus on engaging with our youth and giving them the opportunity to go on these trips, he was all for it. And he helped my sister and I kind of co-found Blue Missions.
Nice.
And gave us a lot of support. We learned a lot from him early on, and we were kind of built in their mold. So that was in 2010 when Blue Missions was founded. And since then, we've done over 150 projects, impacted over 35,000 people through clean water and sanitation, and taken over 3,000 volunteers to live that experience. And that's, I always tell people, our mission is 50% clean water and sanitation, but 50% connecting volunteers to purpose. So we want, we believe that by being present, by working alongside the locals, hand in hand, by making friends that are dealing with this situation, you can be a lot more empathetic to a lot of different global issues. And that can inspire you to come back home and pursue your own dreams of, impacting the world in a positive way.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. And when you started, kind of what was that initial step? Were you leveraging off the original organization, or you started from scratch and had to find volunteers? Like where were you finding these initial volunteers when you started?
Yeah, the beginning years of Blue, it was never created with the idea of it becoming what it is today.
Yeah.
It was built as a means to give myself and my friends and my family the opportunity to keep doing this each summer. Our idea was, hey, we'd fundraise a few $1,000s each year.
Yeah, just
and
the
then
couple
we'll
of
go
you.
on this camping trip with our friends in the summer, do some good, and have a great experience. And then demand just kind of soared. People wanted
Like
this
word of mouth,
experience.
people started hearing what you were doing and they wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, most of our volunteers, over 50% of our volunteers, have come back for a second experience with us. And the things about these trips is that when you go, it's kind of like when you watch your favorite movie, right? You're with all your friends and you're like, oh, what movie should we watch? And you guys decide, you recommend your favorite movie, and you're kind of looking at your friends to see how they react to your favorite movie. If they laugh at the same parts that you laugh at, if they like it just as much as you did. It's one of those things that you just want to share with everyone, So once you experience it, you come back home and you start thinking, man, I would love to do this with my sister, with my friends, with my family, with whoever it may be. But yeah, usually when you come back the next time, you're bringing along more people with you. So it kind of just kept growing, We took 10 volunteers our first year, then 20 in our second year, then 35, then 60, then 150. And it just kind of kept growing year over year.
That's crazy.
Until it, got to the point where we needed to hire full-time staff and, really focus on taking this to another level and impacting more lives.
Yeah. So at this point, is it only focus? I know a lot of the focus is towards high school students, right?
Yeah.
Is that still the way that it works? Because I know obviously you guys are involved with Columbus High School, Westminster, which for any listeners that are outside of Miami, these are a lot of local high schools here in the Miami area. But right now, is that the focus? Is it generating, high school students to kind of, like you said, fulfill their purpose and serve something bigger than themselves?
That was definitely the origins of it. Right now we have programs for all age groups and all demographics. We want everyone to have this opportunity, right? So we have trips that are specifically targeted towards high school students. We have trips specifically for university students. We have custom trips where families get to go together and travel. Religious organizations, come to us to help them facilitate service missions as well. So there really is something for everyone. And although, it started with just our age group, right? We started aging out of our own trips. And that's where we started adding these all age trips once we graduated college.
Makes sense.
Still wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
But the low hanging fruit, the opportunity lied in our age group and our demographic once we created Blue Missions, and it's kind of just expanded from there.
Nice. So when you started Blue, right? It took off to the point that it is, right? And you're here at this point today with the Blue Missions. What is the next step for Blue, right? You've gotten it to this point where you have over, 150 plus volunteers every trip or every year. Where do you see it going? Because obviously, like the big issue is the issue with clean water, right? And that's a global issue. How can Blue be more involved in that global issue, and how can it expand to kind of serve a larger area outside of the Dominican Republic and the projects that you guys are doing out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. Our mission is to end the water crisis in our lifetime. So this is a major issue. This is 1 in every 10 people are dealing with this on a daily basis, and it's kind of hard to comprehend. I think that's one of
coming
the
from America,
things.
We don't even think twice about it. We turn on the sink, we put a cup of water under there, or we touch our fridge and it pops out water for us. So
100%, and I think going over there and seeing it makes a big difference, as opposed to just reading about it in a textbook.
Yeah.
But Blue, obviously that's our overarching goal, to end that water crisis in our lifetime. There's plenty of organizations like Blue Missions that are taking this on as well. And, you know, we don't see it as competition. We see them as allies, helping us get to that same goal.
Yeah.
In terms of growth and plans and how we can make more of an impact, we're definitely working a lot on our educational side here domestically, where we can, you know, like I told you before, I didn't know a water crisis exists until I got on a plane, drove 4 hours into the mountains, and lived that for 10 days. We want to change that, you know, so we want to bring new types of education to our students, you know, whether it be middle school, elementary school, high school, college, offer different programs here locally that start introducing, you know, our youth, our community to these global issues that exist. And if we can start introducing them to those issues, maybe it piques some interest, maybe it motivates them to study something specific, you know, when they go to college,
agriculture,
or to develop their own ideas. So definitely in 2022 and then over the next 3 years, we're going to be focusing a lot on our local education.
So based off of that, you think one of the best solutions towards, you know, achieving that is more an issue of awareness or lack of awareness, and then manpower, right? So the more people that are educated about the issue, the more people that get involved in this issue, it allows us to basically just cover a larger surface area to kind of achieve what Blue's doing in the Dominican Republic, but at a larger scale, right?
Of course, yeah. I believe that we all have a role. You know, we all have a role to play in this ecosystem of giving. We all have unique talents. We all have unique passions, you know, and it's kind of being able to take a step back and look at yourself as a complete being, as a person, and figuring out where you fit, you know, in this ecosystem of giving, you know. So that's a big part of what we're trying to help people get to, you know, whether you're a graphic designer who does pro bono work for a nonprofit, or a lawyer that files a trademark, you know, for an organization, or a missionary that, you know, dedicates your life to service. It doesn't matter where you fall on that spectrum. But it's important that we all seek it out, because it's not always going to just hit you in the face. You know, you have to kind of be conscious about it. And if you don't know it exists, how are we going to solve it?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I'm someone that wants to start a nonprofit, right? I've heard about Blue, or I haven't heard about Blue, but starting a nonprofit is something that has been of interest to me, right? Where would someone start if they wanted to start a nonprofit? You know, what are some of the necessary steps that they would need to take to start a nonprofit? You know, it doesn't matter whether it's supporting clean water, you know, whatever that nonprofit may be. What are something that they may have to do to get that started?
It all starts with mission and vision. You know, the mission is the guiding light for any organization. And to get to that mission, you know, this is kind of the advice that I give a lot of people that ask that similar question. You know, you have to figure out what it is that you're attracted to, what makes you feel the most alive, and then go research that, you know. And what is research? Research means looking up organizations in your local community that are addressing the issue that has captivated you. Once you do that, you can go in and volunteer with these various organizations and see the things that you like, the things that you see are working better, the things that you don't want to do. And you go formulating your vision for your organization, but it has to be centered around impact, you know, around, you know, you have to pick what kind of demographic you want to serve, you know, what's the audience. I'm someone who believes that the more hyper-focused you can be as an organization, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, the more success you're going to have. You know, we talk about it here, you know, where we want to spend 90% of our time as an organization doing what we do best. And although there's a lot of different things that we would love to do, by being hyper-focused, it allows us to be the very best at what we do.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. I love that. So you have other ventures that you've kind of ventured out to outside of Blue Missions. You started an agency called Cultura, right? Which is KUL, the number 2, RA. First off, where did that name come from? Like, you know, with the number 2 in it. And then tell us a little bit about, you know, what the agency does and some of the work that you guys have going on.
Yeah, the name came from, you know, just the word culture, right? You know, being in Miami, you know, with so many different cultures, you know, it's a melting pot for so many different communities. You know, we wanted to name this company something that represented who we are. And at the same time, we believe that the culture is what dictates how the world moves. You know, the culture determines what's popular, what's cool, what's in, what's not. And we, you know, this agency is built around making kind the new cool. You know, we are bringing our experience from the nonprofit sector and how we've uniquely approached growing Blue Missions, with an emphasis on marketing and branding and things that traditional nonprofits, really don't pay attention to. We've had a lot of success implementing those things at Blue Missions, and together with our creative director at Blue Missions, Leslie Ramos, we kind of joined forces and said, hey, why don't we create an agency that'll work with brands, work with companies to create social impact campaigns, that can educate, the masses, that can impact the culture in a way, where we can make kind the new cool.
Nice.
So that's kind of the core of our business. We're a content creation house. We specialize in video production, audio production, and helping brands create that content, and hopefully bringing some of our expertise on how they can bring impact into their, kind of have them focus on the triple bottom line, people, profits, and the planet, and figuring out creative ways to share those stories.
Oh yeah, I love that. And for Cultura, what is the vision? Is it to continue, just on the creative side, or do you see like a bigger project? Obviously, you were able to scale out Blue Missions. What's the vision for Cultura?
Yeah, the vision for Cultura is, in terms of long-term planning, 3 to 5 years, we'd like to be our own media house. We want to create our own original content. We have different ideas, concepts that we want to pursue, and right now we're pitching them to brands, hoping that, they see the value in that as well. But we'd love to own some of this content that we're producing, and be able to be a hub for social impact content, similar to Vice, that has their department of impact. We see a unique position. We believe that this next generation coming up, Gen Z, they really do care. They care about the products they buy, and they care about what those brands support and what they stand for. And, social impact, there's a lot of powerful stories to share that really create movement and create change. And that's what we're most excited about.
Okay. Oh yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Something that and I think what you're doing is awesome between the Blue Missions and I think the Cultura. For some of you that can't see what I'm seeing, they've done an awesome job designing this place, and I think it's super cool. And they're behind the design of the podcast. So for anyone looking for help in this department, I highly recommend them. Like, speaking from personal, from my own personal self, but something that as an entrepreneur, right, that you're a young entrepreneur, you've been an entrepreneur now for a few years, right? There's a lot of moving parts that get into to starting a business and growing a business once you get it off the ground, right? Between the financial aspect of it, building a team around you that's passionate just as much as you are, maybe not just as much as you are, but they believe in the same, story and passion and kind of drive that you're based off of, right? But one thing to me that is not spoken about enough is life outside of business, right? Like, what do you do outside of work, outside of Blue Missions, relationships, things around that nature, right? And that's something that, to me, I see from the outside in. I think you do a really good job of kind of, juggling a little bit of everything. I mean, you got 2 businesses going on, you have a relationship, you have a personal life outside of work. How does one, starting a business, juggle a little bit about, getting the business going, but also, taking time for you and taking time, to enjoy things outside of work and your business?
Yeah, balance is key. Figuring out that balance, it's not the easiest thing to do. Like you're saying, it's very easy to say yes to a lot of things and to get overwhelmed and to just try to be able to deliver all the things that you're committed to.
Yeah.
But it's what you prioritize, right? Wherever you dedicate your energy, your time, your mindset is where you're going to go. So if you prioritize, having that balanced life, you can achieve it. On a personal level, I've learned to say no to things. I've learned not to worry about FOMO or different things kind of in that space. Being organized is important, having systems in place. And, for example, every day I start my day by walking over to the beach and meditating, and kind of starting the day off on the right foot, seeing the sunrise, putting myself in a mental state to be able to succeed and to do my best. And that's something that I won't compromise. If are there days where maybe it's cloudy outside or you don't want to get out of bed? Yeah, there's obviously days like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to build that consistent habit in order to really implement it into your life and make it something that positively affects your life. And then the systems you place, another example would be, I like to take my meetings between Tuesday and Thursday, and schedule it that way to know that, on Mondays and Fridays I can be a little bit more flexible. And there's little kind of tricks like that you can implement, especially when you have multiple things going on, to be able to make sure that you're doing each of those things to the best of your ability. And also, having the peace of mind, and a reduction in stress that can come with these commitments and these obligations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the hardest things is like, and something that you just kind of touched on, it's the stress factor that goes into this, right? We can get very caught up in worrying about all the different tasks that we have at hand, whether it's work, whether it's our relationships, whether it's family, friends, right? I think you touched on it. It's like the power of saying no, right? It's about putting what we value most and making that our priorities, right? Obviously, things that are important of us are our business, right? Because that's, what gets us to the next level, right? But it's also about finding that time for you, right? And one of the things that you said that you do is every morning you go to the beach, or at least you try to, and you meditate. What does that practice of meditation look like to you, right? I think the practice of meditation is different to everyone. And I think more and more people want to learn how they can practice meditation at some capability to manage stress, to get their head a little bit, more leveled. What does that practice look like to you?
Yeah, for me, I've always felt most connected and in tune when I'm in nature, right? So I know beach or mountain, I know that's coming up at some point.
Yeah.
But,
you can knock it out now if you want.
Yeah, the beach, it's serene, it's calming, it's peaceful, it's powerful. It has all these characteristics. And what my meditation looks like is, just kind of setting up on the sand, putting out the blanket, sitting there with my legs crossed, good posture, good position, closing your eyes, nothing in your ears, no sound or anything besides the ocean waves or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then being disciplined enough to stay in that state, that your mind is going to run in so many directions. And definitely when I started meditating, I was had nowhere near the range or the ability to go for as long as I can now. But it's not, when your mind does drift, when you're meditating, it's not about being upset about that your mind is drifting.
Exactly.
It's about just realizing it. Yeah. It's about just realizing it and pulling yourself back into the state of meditation. Box breathing is something that I've used before.
What's box breathing?
It's taking, a set, usually two very deep breaths, back to back, there's some research done that can, temporarily reduce stress, or, if you're in a tense moment, so there's a lot of different kind of techniques, to do that. But I think consistency is the most important thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I started meditating, I want to say like 5-6 years ago. And when I was my most consistent is when I was in, my best mental space, 1000%. Just less reactive. Things came to you more naturally. I don't know if that's something that I don't know if you've ever noticed that, like just that energy shift where things align, or they seem to be more in align with, what you want to achieve, or they make more sense. I mean, they could be the same things that would have happened, but they just feel that way, right? When you stop meditating, you kind of feel that shift, right? It's like I don't know how else to put it, but it's like an energy shift, right? Mentally, physically, your body reacts a certain way when you take the time to kind of like look within, right? What do you recommend to someone that, they're just starting to meditate, right? They have that aspect of the mind bouncing around and it's really hard for them to focus. How does one begin that practice?
So I got into meditating. I started seeing someone as a therapist to talk about different things, and they got me into the practice of meditation.
Nice.
And it started with guided meditations, right? Where he was kind of walking me through the meditation process. I had never meditated on my own,
right?
So he provided me with a lot of the tools to be able to continue meditating on a daily basis. YouTube, would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Spotify, podcast,
YouTube guided meditations, just looking up.
and just try out, kind of do your research.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
know
lot of
there's
different-
Headspace, Calm Now, a couple different meditation apps. There's one that I found online that was one of the ones that I started off with. Was her name was Tara Brock. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She has a lot of guided meditations that were really, really good, where she's kind of like talking you through them. A little bit on the longer side, so maybe not the best for like a beginner, but definitely one that was good because it kind of like guided you, like, take a focus on your breath, which seems to be the consistent theme across different guided meditations that I heard, where it always comes back to the breath. And that's, building that awareness and just allowing yourself to, when you drift away from thought, that you come back to that place. Yeah. So that, to me, that's definitely what's worked best.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Everyone kind of
has their different form of meditation. Yeah, I mean, there's fitness, people work out as meditation, people go for a walk, and they're just very aware when they walk. So I think there's different forms, but it definitely seems to be like when you go within and you kind of close your eyes and you practice that practice of meditation is where you kind of reap the most amount of benefits, for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah. All right, cool. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, right, and it was kind of like touching on one of the points that we were just speaking on, was relationships and being an entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but the battle of handling a relationship while developing a business or working, or we're all trying to aspire to be something, right? What is it that you do between you and your partner that is something that works well for you, and being cognitive of each other's time, understanding that she has her life, you have your life, and you have your priorities, and she has your priorities. But at the end of the day, you take the time, obviously, to take care of each other. What does that look like on your end?
Yeah, I think in all relationships, whether it's friendships or, whether you're married to someone or dating someone, you got to communicate, right? You got to be able to express yourselves, be honest with each other, and kind of lay out guidelines and kind of a framework of, these are things that are important to me, and kind of go back and forth, understanding what your partner's needs are or your friend's needs are. So having an open line of communication and being able to talk, I think has been key. The meditation practice that we were talking about before is something that we do together every day.
Okay.
We live in Miami Beach, so we have it accessible to us in a way where we can just kind of wake up and go.
And how does that like joint meditation practice look like? Is she there, sitting there, doing her thing, and you're just there doing your thing, and it's kind of like a shared experience, or are you guys doing something together in that experience?
It's more the shared experience.
Okay.
It's more the shared experience, and we share a lot of the same interests. So through some of those interests, we also, feel like it helps with that meditation practice, with the mental well-being. Mm-hmm. We love to hike, we love to travel. We share those interests, so it's something that we can definitely bond upon and do together and really enjoy.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm in a relationship as well, and I think communication is definitely the key. Just whatever's on your mind, speak it. Always be transparent. And another thing is, it's like being understanding of their emotions and their mental space, right? Because we can be really quick to kind of react, right? And I think meditation kind of helps with this, right? Where we're not so quick to react based off something that our partner may have said, or something that they did, right? It's about being more understanding of your partner, whether it's in business, like you said, whether it's your friend, whether it's your significant other. It's not being so quick to judge and so quick to react based off of your partner's or friend or business partner's reaction, right? It's about being understanding of, like, they may have had a bad day that day. Maybe that's what that trigger was. Or you don't know what they're going on in their mental space, right? Or their family space, whatever it may be. Everyone's got something going on, right? So it's like the more understanding that we are, the less of a reaction each one of that person's going to have. So it's going to allow you to feel more connected and figure out what's the best way to handle that situation. And to me, that's something that's worked across the board, from, my relationship with my parents to my relationship with my brothers to my relationship with my girlfriend, my friends, about not being so quick to react and being more understanding about how they feel and what may be going on in their life.
Yeah, and what you're describing is empathy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that is key for our society.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, being understanding and being open-minded enough to say, hey, maybe I don't think the same as that person, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and being supportive of people, you know, rather than trying to kind of bring them to your views or kind of what you believe, appreciate what they believe and learn from that.
Yeah.
You know, and hear a different opinion, a different perspective, and be able to just appreciate it from the outside as opposed to maybe trying to change it or.
Yeah, and not like assuming the worst out of that person too. I think, you know, I catch myself, you know, doing that frequently too, where for some reason I'm assuming that the worst out of that person, whether it's a random stranger or someone, like the intentions of that person is not good, right? Which that may not be the case. You know, may be the case. You know, there are people out there that are not the best, but we all have something deep down that causes. I'm a big believer that deep down we all have good in us.
Yeah. I think I saw an abuelita cut you off the other day, and you kind of went off in your car.
I don't know if it was an abuelita, but it does happen. The road rage can get to you here in Miami. That's for damn sure.
That's the first thing that came to my mind that I've been working on.
Dude, the Miami drivers test your patience. That's for damn sure, bro.
Yeah.
But before we get
signal probably doesn't work.
Oh no, turn signals don't work. People, I mean, I've seen the craziest things. People driving on the wrong side of traffic. Like
maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they're, you know. Maybe
I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt that they have a reason for being the way that they are. That's for sure. But before we move on, I wanted to crack one of these open. Obviously, you've tried the beer.
Best
you know,
beer out
the
there.
podcast is powered by Johnny Cuba. So I gotta stay hydrated when I'm on the podcast. For those, you know, that haven't heard about it, it's a light lager, German beer. We're brewed in Germany, but we sell it right now throughout the whole state of Florida. It's a 5% beer. Really easy drinking. Cheers, brother. But, you know, it's what keeps my voice working when I'm recording these. So I gotta get a little sipping.
It's a good beer. Where can I get this?
So right now, here in Florida, you can find it at Sedano's Presidente Supermarket. Locally, a couple liquor stores like Vintage Liquors, Sunset Liquors, a couple Chevron gas stations that we're in. We actually just got approved for Winn-Dixie. So somewhere in Q1 of 2022, you should be able to find them at pretty much most Winn-Dixies. And then we'll see from there. It's definitely been a grind, but you know, if you want to try the beer, support the beer, you could definitely find it at Sedano's and at Presidente Supermarket. Every one of those locations has it throughout the state of Florida. So if you pass by one of those, you could definitely find it there. So before we wrap up, I got the segment Talk Taranki to me. You already answered the first question. Clear cut, the beach.
I don't think so.
No?
No, I say you hit me with it again.
Oh, okay. All right. So beaches or mountains?
Mountains.
Oh, okay. All right.
The beach is what's close to me.
So yeah, beach is convenient, but you're more of a mountain guy?
Yeah. I love the mountains.
What is it about the mountains?
There's something in the air. You know, I love all kinds of mountains. You know, I've been to a lot of them. I've climbed a few. And yeah, there's just something about being up in the mountains.
What mountains have you climbed?
Pico Duarte in the Dominican Republic. It's the tallest peak in the Caribbean.
Okay.
I've done trails out in the West Coast. I've done trails out in Arizona.
Nice.
Not necessarily summits, but, you know, Havasu is a pretty long hike that we've been able to do, and a lot of alpine lakes up in the Pacific Northwest.
Nice.
But yeah, there's just this crispness in the air and, you know, this feeling.
It's a different sense of like quiet out there too. I don't know what it is.
For sure.
It's like you're surrounded by all these trees. Like you don't really have like, because like to me the ocean has depth, right?
Yeah.
The mountains, unless you're on the peak, you can kind of see some sort of depth out there. But like being in the mountains, it's like, I don't know, like head on your shoulder. Like, I don't know. It's cool.
You worried about the bears?
Yeah, the bears. More the deers, bro. I don't trust the deers. So action movies or scary movies?
Action movies.
What's favorite action movie? Or
man, I wouldn't pick either action or scary movies,
really?
But favorite action movie?
Are you like a rom-com guy or?
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed to say it. But
I'm a huge rom-com guy.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers is top 3 of all time. I think it's up there.
That's a good.
I like comedy.
Yeah, I'm a comedy guy.
Yeah.
Classic Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey and what's the other guy's name? I forget his name now. But have you seen Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think that's my comedy. It's just like stupid comedy. But cool. All right. So obviously Latin inspired, Spanglish type of podcast and brand between Johnny Cuba and Stay Tranquilo. What's your favorite Cuban dish or Hispanic dish of choice?
Man, there's a few that I really like. My favorite dish of all time is number 31 at Rio Cristal.
Wow, very specific.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and what does that entail?
It's a palomilla with onions and a mountain of French fries on top of it.
Nice, yes.
And it comes with rice.
One of my boys, he always eats that, and it's always on his story, and it's just there, a mountain of fries on top, and I'm like, that actually does look really good.
Yeah, I think that would be one of my go-tos if, you know, on death row, how you get one.
Yeah, that's what you're going
that
with?
might be it.
Interesting.
Hopefully I'm never on death row, but...
At least you know what you're going to go with if it does happen.
Yeah, I'd probably go palomilla or vaca frita.
Solid. And Rio Cristal has the best one?
They have the best palomilla with the fries.
Yeah.
Vaca frita, there's a little cafe. There's a couple cafes. You know, I like the small mom and pop shop. Yeah, I was going to say the Friends Cafe here in our kind of warehouse park.
Friends. They do make a good colada there too.
Yeah, they do. And there used to be one by the old Blue Office called Tinajita. It's out by Tamiami Airport, and just a small kind of hole-in-the-wall type of place.
Nice.
Family run, you know, made with love.
Always. Yeah. Love is the key to every recipe. Like, I could tell, if my grandma ever hears this, she might get angry at me. But, like, there's days where she makes food at the house, right? Dude, I'm talking about bomb, best arroz con pollo, like, awesome. And you could tell, like, that day she went the extra effort to make it out of love. When there's those days where she may be, like, in a little bad mood or a cranky mood, and she's like, I'm just popping this out to, like, pop it out. It just doesn't taste the same, dude.
Oh, man. I hope your grandma doesn't watch YouTube.
Yeah, she's going to be like, what the hell? All right, cool. What else did I want to ask you? Favorite travel destination?
Favorite travel destination? I'd have to say Dominican Republic. Just because, you know, I've been there over 100 times.
Yeah.
And it feels like home to me.
Okay.
And I love it. You know, the Dominican Republic has mountains, it has beaches. It has that rural kind of atmosphere where, you know, everything's en familia, you know. So I definitely love that country. It's impacted my life in many ways. So I'd say that's number one. If I'm just giving a travel recommendation, I'm telling people to go spend 2 weeks in Utah. In southern Utah.
Nice.
And enjoy everything that there is to see there, because there's about 4 or 5 national parks, as well as Lake Powell.
Yes,
and,
I hear Lake Powell is sick.
Yeah, that combination, you know, I'm a big national park guy, so there's a lot, you know, the Tetons, Yosemite, Glacier. There's so many parks that, you know, they take your breath away, you know, and anytime I'm out there in nature and able to have my breath taken away, you know, it's a really grounding experience. It reminds me of how small we are. In a good way. Yeah. You know, where we're here for such a finite amount of time. We're here for such a short amount of time when you think about the universe into perspective as a whole. And it makes you think, you know, hey, what's my impact going to be? What's my legacy going to be? Yeah. Where do I want to allocate my time, which is the most important resource that I have?
And I think that's a really good point. You know, like the aspect of, you know, we have such, you know, little time here, and in the grand scheme of things, like, we're so little and irrelevant, right? You know, we have our purpose, but in the grand scheme of things, like, what seems so big is not that big, right? And, you know, when I started Stay Tranquilo, it originated off of that, right? You know, kind of like just thinking, like, why am I getting so worked up over this, when in the grand scheme of things, like, there's bigger problems out there than the problem that I may be having, or the thought that I may be having. You know, there's always a solution, and things do always get better, right? So when things look so, you know, dark and so gloomy, right, there's always a better coming, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, there's so much good to life, right? So don't get so consumed on what sucks. Be more consumed about, like you said, what's so great about this planet and about this life, you know, the beautiful nature. And I think nature does provide that. It makes us realize, fuck, dude, like, this shit's awesome.
Yeah, man.
But sure. And before we wrap it up, a book and a podcast that you would recommend to people. I know you're a big podcast guy.
Yeah, I love podcasts. My recommendation would be Startup. It's the first podcast I ever
started
heard.
Listening to that one.
You know, it's cool to hear now. because it's basically an entrepreneur launching a podcast
Yep.
business. You know, someone who was working for someone else, creating an amazing podcast, decides to leave it all behind and start a business. Someone who has no experience starting a business. So he
Yeah.
basically records all his conversations as he's conceptualizing this new venture,
Yep.
recording his pitches to investors. And it really gives you an inside look at his vision for podcasting. And I want to say that podcast came out
2014.
Was it 2014?
I'm pretty sure.
I
Yeah.
wanna
I was
say-
looking at the dates, at least on Spotify, and I want to say it was 2014.
Yeah.
It could have been sooner, but
And it, you know, it was just very, you know, visionary. You know, I think it's cool to look back and watch him basically bring podcasting to the mainstream. And now think about how many podcasts exist and how many people
because he
consume
started
podcasts.
Gimlet Media, right?
Yeah, he's the founder of Gimlet Media, and you know, he's just an incredible. You know, it shows you when you're passionate about something and you really care about something and you become very good at it. You know, sky's the limit.
Oh, yeah.
And I always appreciate learning about visionaries who maybe early on were told, "Hey, you're crazy. There's no way this is gonna work." You know, you have a ceiling on how big you can get, and the next thing you know, podcasts are, you know, one of the biggest growing industries in the world.
And
now.
only getting bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a book that you would recommend to somebody, or are you a reader?
Yeah, I like books. I've read some books in my time.
Are you a Harry Potter guy? Or
No, I did read The Hunger Games.
or Twilight.
Loved The Hunger Games. You know, I thought that was a great series. That's the fiction recommendation. Another fiction recommendation, The Alchemist. I think
Alchemist is awesome.
it's a good book to even read multiple times.
Mhm.
You know, depending at different phases of your life. You
Yeah.
know, it can mean a lot of different things. So I'll give The Alchemist as one recommendation, and as a nonfiction kind of biography, Mountains Beyond Mountains by Paul Farmer, or actually written by Tracy Kidder about Paul Farmer and his life. And he's a philanthropist, educator who has made a big impact in Haiti, and we can learn a
Okay.
lot from his story.
Cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, and I
My
appreciate you
pleasure.
being on. And
My pleasure.
for anyone that wants to follow Danny, obviously some of his other ventures, where can they find you? Where can they find Blue Missions, Cultura?
Yeah, check out Blue Missions on Instagram, at Blue Missions, on Facebook, Blue Missions, website, bluemissions.org. We're always looking for volunteers, for donors,
Yes.
for people to just
I gotta get out
involved
there.
with us.
I've been dying to do a trip.
Yeah, so make sure you follow us there. On the production side, Cultura Creative. We'll link all the information in the description of this pod. So thanks
Yeah.
for having me on, and I appreciate you giving Cultura and Blue this platform. Looking forward to watch Stay Tranquilo keep growing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for helping out with all of this. So
My pleasure.
let's keep making things happen.
Let's do it.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Until next time.
Yes, sir.